Okay, so next up, I am super happy to have the opportunity to hear from our next speaker. I think that he has insights that are universally important, and I think that every one of us has a lot that we can learn from our next guest. Jayrod is the co-founder of UBlack, which is an organization I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about. He's a poet, he's an educator, and a human rights speaker. He is the kind of person that has a vision for a better world where we can see each other as human beings. And he's had some interesting experiences in his life. He's obviously a very giving person of his time and his talents. He's currently on the National Board of Directors for Oasis, and he is the youth coordinator for the local chapter of Oasis. Obviously willing to give a lot of time. Married with 2 children, and is currently writing a novel, so I'm looking forward to having an opportunity to read it. Jayrod has agreed to come up and speak to us about healthy relationships within our relationship with power. That's a mouthful. He'll make it clear to you. Jayrod, come on up.
All right, so first thing I'm going to do here, so this coat acts as my armor, okay? I'm going to take, so while I'm up here, I promise to you while I'm up here today, is I'm not going to be armored. Armored is talking about the emotional space where I dwell in, where I have to protect myself because I'm a black man that lives in Utah. Okay? So keep in mind, like you've heard people talk about Brene Brown stuff. There's another book that Brene Brown worked with a woman by the name of Tarana Burke with. I think it's You're Not Your Best Friend. I'm trying to remember what it's called, but like, I have my computer up here so I can check things. And the book is You Are Your Best Thing. Okay? So in that book, they talk about the idea of simply being enough, which is a big thing of why I'm here. Because who here grew up believing that in order to be human, that they had to be worthy in God's eyes? Raise your hands. First thing we need to spell. You are human, therefore you are enough. And stop. Okay? You are enough, period. It doesn't matter if you happen to have been on drugs for like the last 50 years of your life. It doesn't matter if you are literally crowned as one of the saints of the world. It doesn't matter if you are just going day to day wondering whether or not you'll be able to keep yourself alive because you have 3 kids, one of them is constantly screaming because they're 3, and you don't understand why 3-year-olds think they have to scream all the time. The other ones are teenagers, and you're like, why can't you put your lives together? It's not that hard. I was able to do it. It doesn't matter. You're still enough. That being said, let's jump into a little bit about me, okay? So I'm that guy there. So I am a co-founder of the Utah Black Artists Collective. So collective of artists in Utah who are black, who are like, okay, everyone thinks that black people belong to gangs, are on drugs, or they're just scary individuals that come out of the night, and we're going to be like, I am Dracula, I'm going to eat you, because I am intimately familiar with violence. Now, no, I am intimately familiar with violence. I spent 15 years in the military. I'm a pacifist now because I don't like the idea of hurting people. I am a teacher at Rise Virtual Academy, which is literally an academy that just teaches black kids about black history. Literally, that's all we do. It's amazing. I'm currently a student at Sierra Nevada University. As was mentioned, I am a board member, the National Oasis Board, and Northern Wasatch Oasis, which is an Oasis, a non-secular group that is here in Utah, similar to Thrive. We meet in Layton at On Pitch Performing Center. Oh my gosh, Oprah, whatever it is. Anyway, we meet there on Sundays, and we have community. That's all we do. I'm the youth coordinator. Things I do there, I teach kids how to be imaginary people who do things in Dungeons and Dragons games. Currently, they've chosen a time travel, multi-dimensional space where anything can literally happen. Children are crazy. Okay? All right, so we're going to jump into this because we're going to talk about all these things. So all these movies have things in common. And I do not like standing in front of people and talking myself to death. Y'all got to give me some answers here. So when you look at all these movies, we got Encanto, we have Avatar: Last Airbender, and Korra, Parasite, Lost in Space, Steven Universe, Mulan, Straight Outta Compton, and Black Panther. What do these movies have in common? Any answer is okay. Even answers such as...
Abuse.
Abuse? Okay. What else?
Heroes.
We got heroes, yes. Yes.
Disrupting power.
Disrupting power. Ooh, yes, yes. You're all along lines of where I'm going. What else? Courage. Yes. Super important thing. That I would go with that because it's probably one of the most important things in all these stories. All of these are stories of courage, except maybe Parasite, which is a story of the exact opposite of courage, which is just being terrified of everything and doing horrible things because of it. If you've seen that movie, you know that. It's fantastic, but oof. Courage is very important here. Because ultimately, we're all in this space where we've walked away from something that was very beautiful to us at one point in time. Okay? I am not the person who's going to sit here and say, like, if you're LDS, it's a horrible, horrible, terrible thing. I have plenty of family and friends who are members of the church. I don't have anything against them. But what I do have something against is this idea where I'm thought of as less than because I have left. Okay? And note, we're talking about courage. We have these people who have had courage to speak out against people who are hurting them. So when we're talking about all that, keep in mind, I do believe you mentioned earlier about the people who are saying vile things about us. These are not simply vile things. I'm going to delve into a space I usually reserve for my teenagers. If someone calls you a goddamn son of a bitch, guess what they just did? Anyone care to venture guesses? We could call it name calling. We could call it being cruel and mean. We could call it abuse. That's the thing. If that is abuse, being called a name is abuse. How many of us have people in our lives we allow to use that kind of abuse to us on a regular basis? You do not have to raise hands there because that would be really awkward. People would be like, I'm raising my hand, but no one else. No, that was not me. No, you didn't see my hand. Nope, not me. How many of us do that same thing to ourselves on a daily basis? This is where the thought process of having to always continually be worthy led us to. It led us to this place where it's okay if we are not feeling worthy that day to sit there and say, hey, you're a piece of shit. It's okay because you can repent and God will make you less of a piece of shit. Super important thing. Some of us actually do know people we would refer to as pieces of shit. Guess what? They're human too. Don't call them pieces of shit. Okay? Let's move on to the next thing, because this is kind of organic. I will probably go back and forth between things as we go. Okay? Oh, this was talking about, so these stories are stories of courage. I think a lot of these stories are a lot more real than these ones. Yay, we have, especially this one over here. Is anyone familiar with the 7? Yeah, it's the boys. horrifying show about superheroes who are no longer super. This is also a show about superheroes who are no longer super. Oh, wait. That's just some of us in this room. We know what this looks like. I point this out because this is what we think of as power. We have all been trained to think of like having these powers or being this super heroic person or being out to go out and save the day. That is what power is. Note, if you haven't caught on to one of the themes yet, one of the first themes is the first power is the fact that you're enough. And that's a fight that every single one of us are going to be until the day we die. Because I've been on this road to be like, I'm enough. Earlier this week, I was having this whole entire crisis in my life where I was like, oh my gosh, I am so awful, and all of the bad things were spilling out of me. It is always a fight to keep in the space of my life has value simply because I breathe. Now, however, so as to dig deeper into power, we have to talk about this idea from a guy by the name of Simon Sinek. Okay, Simon Sinek is a wonderful human being, talks a lot about leadership. This is a book he recently wrote called The Infinite Game. It's based off of the work of another gentleman who he had permission and has literally interviewed before he died. He totally had permission to continue this work. But he writes about these two ideas. One, that there are finite games, such as we have here. Finite games are played by known players. They have fixed rules, and there is an agreed upon objective that, when reached, ends the game, such as football, soccer, basketball, religion. If you check all of the boxes, you will endure to the end, and you will receive your reward. We were playing a finite game, and we never knew it. But that might not mean a lot to you, because you're like, finite games are good. Who here enjoys Sunday night football? See? Yeah. Yeah. Not really my thing. I think it's cool, but not my thing. So there's this other idea where we have these things known as infinite games. These are a lot more complex. These are a lot harder. The game that we're talking about of loving ourselves, being enough, this is an infinite game. So infinite games are played by known and unknown players. You don't know all the people who are playing with you. Is there anyone here in this room who knows every single human being on the face of planet Earth? Okay, so we don't know how many people are playing with us. Okay, there are no exact or agreed upon rules. So pretty much everyone is making this up as they go, okay? Though there may be conventions or laws that govern how the players conduct themselves within those broad boundaries, the players can operate however they want. So, if in said infinite game, all the players agree to, say, keep certain laws, that would be a boundary that they made in the game by themselves. It's not actually a rule, though. They don't have to. The manner in which each player chooses to play is entirely up to them. And they can change how they play the game at any time for any reason. Infinite games have infinite time horizons, and because there is no finish line, no practical end to the game, there is no such thing as winning the infinite game. In an infinite game, the primary objective is to keep playing, to perpetuate the game. So how many of you, when you see that definition of infinite games, how many of you does that, like the idea of playing in a game like that, terrify you? Really? This is the game of life. Most of the things we do in our lives are infinite games. For example, who here is involved in business? Like has their own business or anything? Hey, for those of you who are running businesses, is there anything such as winning business? All right, so let's think about this. Who here is an educator? Okay, educators, cool. Is there such a thing as winning the classroom? Okay. Thinking of another group of people. So when we're talking about large organizations or small organizations, is there any such thing as winning friendship? Not the idea of because we Sunday night football is dumb. We're friends now. But are we at the space where we've won friendship?
I mean, maybe.
I guess that depends on what you now consider winning.
I mean, anybody that's going to be my friend is going to be my friend.
Right. That's that thing of loving people, right? And then we go to this simple place of, now when we're talking about these things such as infinite games, in an infinite game, the primary objective is to keep playing or to perpetuate the game, which is why friendship, infinite game. We want to perpetuate friendship. It will never end. We're not like, let's just abandon this, okay? So our relationships with ourselves, thinking of ourselves is enough, this is an infinite game. It's going to require upkeep. Are the rules going to change? I worked at a call center. When I worked at the call center, what it looked like myself and feeling good about myself looked entirely different than when I stepped into the role of being an educator and being like, I have students, I have these small people who I'm trying to cultivate into being decent small people, not scary small people. Oh God, help me with the small people. I've worked with teenagers for years. It's just always terrifying. You just live in a state of existential terror, like, don't screw up. God damn it, I screwed up. Okay, so, by the way, so you'll see this woman here, Brene Brown. So she talks about this idea of being enough. This is where my journey out of the church was not horrifyingly traumatic and awful and bad. Because I learned about this. I learned about Brene Brown and this whole entire journey, I believe 4 years before I left the church. And she had this whole entire mantra, we heard about mantras today, about the fact that we are enough. So I absorbed that into my life. And I decided, hey, I should do that with other people I know. Like, hey, you're leaving the church? Good on you. I know this isn't for everyone. You live your best life. And then another person would come to me like, I'm leaving the church. They're kind of bad. And there's this, I don't need to know the details of why you're leaving, but you have to live the life that works for you. And then I got to this place where there's this guy named Elder Bednar. He went down to Chile, and he's going to preach them the gospel. And he said to people, there are no homosexuals in the church. And I'm like, I'm out. Peace. And I don't know why I had more compassion for the LGBTQ community than I did myself. Because, keep in mind, to stay in the church is to accept an idea that they said it is a greater sin to drink coffee than it is a greater sin to be black than to drink coffee. You cannot receive all the blessings that God has in store in this age because you are black, therefore sin, therefore all of these things. And I did a lot of research into that, really, in my teens, like, why? Why would God do this? And I came to the place, that God did this because the people weren't ready. And I was like, okay, cool. People weren't ready. I could live with that, right? But I lived with that, why? Because of worthiness. Because I thought that my worthiness was connected to believing in this idea. And now I'm in the space of, I'm enough. And if I am enough as a human being, just by being, why wasn't I enough? Why wasn't those people enough then to be worthy of God saying, all of us are brothers and sisters in Christ, and therefore we are going to fight for every single person's equality in this space? I was a little bit, so there's that. That's the hard part about this. There's levels of it, because you'll be like, I'm enough today. And then you'll get to another level, like, I don't know if I'm ready to be that enough. Because this is more than I can handle. The beautiful thing about it is you don't have to handle it. You just have to be. So, going from here, I'm going to talk about some things that these lovely ladies brought up. Brene Brown talks about the 4 ideas I'm going to talk about here in one of her books, Dare to Lead. I think she also talks she talks about in Dare to Lead primarily, though. This is the 4 expressions of power. This is an idea that's been around for a while. We can talk about power in terms of, there's a gentleman I read a book. Has anyone heard of a book called The 48 Laws of Power? Okay. 48 Laws of Power. It's the guy in that book who wrote that book, he describes power as, power is the measure of the degree of control you have over circumstances in your life and the actions of people around you. It is a skill that is developed by a deep understanding of human nature, of what truly motivates people, and of the manipulation necessary for advancement and protection. Power works best when it is indirect, never coercing people, instead getting them to voluntarily align with your interests. Robert Greene. Who thinks that sounds like a satisfactory explanation of power? Who here thinks that's a bunch of mumbo jumbo that like makes you feel like, oh, he's smart? Okay. Best definition I know of power comes from Martin Luther King Jr. Power properly understood is nothing but the ability to achieve purpose. It is the strength required to bring about social, political, and economic change. He's missing one type of change in there. Personal. Power is also the ability to do that. So, let's explore these, what these things are. When you know what they actually are, they're like really self-explanatory, and you're like, huh? Okay. But I chose famous people to represent some of these too. So, we're first going to talk about power over. Who knows this guy? Now, if you happen to live in what was once the USSR, you may think Mr. Stalin here is a hero. They do. He is the reason why Russia is a world power. 100%. He is also responsible for millions of deaths of his own people. From famine, from literal ethnic cleansing, all sorts of things. Okay? This is also the reason why people will say communism is evil. Because they look at his actions and they determine him to be evil. They also do the same thing with Hitler, because Hitler also said he was a socialist, but there's actually nothing socialist in anything he did. However, this form of power over is tyranny. Tyranny functions like this. Well, I'm taking this and this. And note, once you understand how tyranny works, you start trying to protect yourself from it, right? Because tyranny functions specifically in taking power. Instead of letting you be able to have power, I say, I will take your power from you because you are not smart enough, or you are not good enough, or you are not worthy enough to wield it. Okay? Power over, okay? Joe Stong, okay? We're going to go to the next person, okay? Power within. I define power within as being confidence. And I was thinking, put this together last night. Who is the person who glows confidence to me? And I'm like, immediately, Nelson Mandela. Okay, all right, so imagine with me for a minute, okay? You live in South Africa. And I know this is going to be a stretch for some of you, but you're black now, okay? Because 85% of South Africa is black. Only 15% of it's white. By the way, the 85% black people own 13% in this age. 13% of the land belongs to them. The other 87% belongs to the white people. Okay? By the way, if the black people are doing something that you don't like, totally okay. Torture them in the street. Totally all right. So all of you have now probably at some point in time in your life, you've experienced someone torturing you. You've experienced abuse. You do not have any rights in this society. It is apartheid, okay? And you got this guy who's like, I'm not okay with that, so I'm going to fight against it, okay? Fights against it so hard, the government's like, we ain't having you fighting us. Puts him in jail for not like 5 years, 10 years, 27 years. Let me tell you, prison is one of the places that you are guaranteed to come out of with PTSD from. Okay? But he comes out, so he goes in, I do believe it's 63 is when he goes in. He comes out in 1990, right? And somehow 4 years later, he goes from there to being the president of South Africa, having been part of the process of them finally beating apartheid. He beams of confidence because he had to do the work of power within every day of what am I going to do to say I am enough? What am I going to do to sit there and be like, I can take what they are doing to me and I can become the person I want to be? How do I keep my eye on the prize of I want myself and all the people around me to be free? Power within. This person is power with. Mother Teresa. Now, years ago, I heard this story about Mother Teresa. And the story went like this. So, Mother Teresa has gotten on a plane. She's flying somewhere. And stewardess comes over to her and asks her about the in-plane meal. And she's like, I'd rather not have my in-plane meal. And actually, instead, I'd like to donate to the poor. And they're like, okay. Now note, this is Mother Teresa. So she's like, actually, can I make an announcement to the plane? Sure. She announces to the plane that she's going to donate her meal. And she asks the rest of the plane to donate their meals to the poor as well. Now note, it's Mother Teresa, right? Who here is going to tell Mother Teresa no? No one, right? So the entire plane donates their meal to the people, right? She lands. She's like, and now has an entire plane worth of food for the poor. So she's like, hey, can I get someone to donate a truck to me to be able to deliver this food? Inside of an hour, because she's Mother Teresa, that happens, right? And so she just goes with the food to the poor, delivers food to the poor, right? Note, we say all this because she's Mother Teresa, but how many moving parts were there? There was not just her doing this work. She first had to convince the woman on the plane or the guy on the plane that, hey, this food is important for the poor. We should give it to them. So then she had to persuade all the people on the plane that was a worthy cause. Then she had to convince the people who own the truck company that was a worthy cause. And note, if you arrive with an entire truck of food to deliver to the homeless, are you going to need help to be able to distribute it? Of course you are. This woman is a master of cooperation. She was able to persuade people to do things that were totally not in what they were expecting to be doing that day. Now, something you might not know about Mother Teresa is most of the time that she was Mother Teresa, she didn't have faith. Her faith was a shell that she put on to be able to do said work. In her journals and later on in her life, she talks about the fact that she has no faith. But obviously she had something because she believed that it was meaningful work to make certain that the hungry of the world were fed. You don't need a belief in God to be able to do amazing things. Okay, Oprah Winfrey. I find myself feeling like this pendulum is swung over here, faithless to like super faithful. This is so. The most thing that most of us know Oprah Winfrey for is the whole entire. You got a car, and you got a car, and you got a car, and you got a car. Unfortunately, I have no cars. All I can offer is you love. I love you. I love you. I love y'all over there too. Mark. Hawaii. Oh, on that note, I recall something I was going to do when I came up here, and I totally spaced. Aloha. Aloha. Thank you for returning the breath of life to me. I appreciate it. Okay, Oprah Winfrey. So she is all about empowerment. Because people come on her show, and one of the things you find out, like over time, is everyone comes on, they have a story to tell. She empowers them to tell their story, to get it out into the world, to say the things that they need to say. Super important in all of that is this. At the end of them telling their story, every time they ask, in some way, shape, or form, was I good? And her response to all of them is always that, yes, you were good. That was good enough. Thank you. Every single one of us has the power to help someone else out. If nothing else, by listening to their story and telling them that they're good and that they are worthy, then we can simply hold them, because sometimes words aren't necessary. She made an entire career out of giving others power. She's super rich because she gave others power. I'm like, I don't know how to do that, but like I would like to, because that would be cool. Okay, I guess I have to write books or something. This is the last person we're going to talk about. Who here knows who Fred Hampton is? Okay? So we're talking about these. Now, something I didn't mention is like, of these 4 types of power, 3 of them are infinite. Power within is infinite, because you can have an infinite amount of confidence. Power within, power with, where we're building each other up, cooperation, what we do when we're just 2 of us together, or a community together, or a world together, the options never divide. They only multiply. And then power 2. If I sit there and if I had that power to give everyone a car, that would be great. But I can tell you all that you're enough, and that you're worthy of love, and that I love you, and that this world is a better place because you are in it. I can do that work. I can do it all day. That's an infinite form of power. But this last one, this power over, no, this one's not infinite. This one's a finite form of power. This one is only used in finite games. Or at least until I realized how Mr. Hampton used it. See, you can use it in tyranny, which is always finite. Me taking your power, can I take the power of everyone in this room? No, I cannot. You saw as soon as people started noticing I was taking cell phones, they immediately took their cell phones. They moved them. Why? Because you are never going to be able to take all the people's power. They will not let you. They will run away from you. They will avoid you. If they're scared enough of you, they will literally rise up, have a revolution, and kill you and all of your men to make certain they keep their power. We did that. It's called the American Revolution. But this power over is leadership. Fred Hampton was one of the Black Panthers, who we hear, they're bad, they're scary, awful, black. As a Black Panther, what Fred Hampton did was he helped with instituting a little program in his neighborhood that nationally we know is called WIC. Oh, by the way, the WIC was actually created by the Black Panthers. The actual government took the program and made it their own. He talked about black people being able to protect themselves, the right to bear arms. He actually had bodyguards. This man was responsible for helping build power, not just among black folks, but among the poor whites in his community, among the Hispanics in his community. He was trying to get everyone power. But of course, sometimes governments don't like that. So at the age of 21, the FBI drugged him at his favorite bar. He went home that night. They came in. But I mentioned he has a bodyguard. His bodyguard was sitting in a chair like this, the gun across his lap. The FBI came in, and the first thing they did was they fired on the man. The gun never left his lap. They were never in danger. Questions of like, why did this happen? Other questions you may have. Why in the world did the FBI come into the whole household of a 21-year-old man and shoot him to death in his bed? Shoot him to death in his bed when he was sleeping next to his child and his girlfriend. It's because he understood power over in a different way. Because all those infinite forms of power, what happens if when you have a leader among you, you choose to give them power? You see something in them and you're like, I want to give you power. I want to say, you are a good person. For heaven's sakes, we've seen Brene Brown's name up here. She is absolutely a person who does this. People give her power because of the fact that she does good things. That is what real leadership looks like. People are also afraid of real leadership if you happen to look the wrong way. So, these 4 powers are super important. The reason why is because who here would like to have more people empowering them in their lives? These are things you can all raise your hands to. Who here would like to be more confident? Who here would like to be able to cooperate with people who they feel safe with? Notice, I didn't see everyone raise their hands because some people were totally like, no, this gentleman over here, bruh, no, I'm not raising my hand. It did not happen. I know you. I can see the fact that you're like, this is good, go, okay, good. But the bottom line is this. All of these forms of power have something to do with making the world a better place, okay? Once upon a time, we may have been LDS and totally believing in the fact that there was a world out there where we would get to heaven and things would be better and all of that jazz, right? I'm here to tell you that we should not be aiming for that. We should straight up just be like, we're going to use whatever power we have available to us in cooperation, in empowerment, in confidence, and finding the best leaders we can to literally reach up, seize the sky, and bring heaven here. Who wants to live in heaven for the entirety of their lives? Who wants to bring their child up in literal heaven? Who wants to be able to go over to their friend's house and be like, hey, Joe, you a god. We're going to go hang out today. And then you go out with Joe, your friend who's a god, and Joe's like, yeah, you're a god too. And then you realize that there's this thing that C.S. Lewis said about the divinity of humanity that just meant we were more than we ever thought we were. Now, on that note, I'm going to end my comments. I was going to share with you poetry, because I'm a poet. However, I did not have time for that because this is a lot. Okay? But I will share with you one poem before I leave. I was going to have a Q&A too, and that did not happen. I apologize. If you care to ask me questions about any of these ideas, I'm over at that table, the rowdy one, where we keep laughing, because laughter is super important, and it heals my soul. But I'm going to share with you. Okay, so three-minute poem, okay? So this poem, this is the poem I really care about. It is called Limitless. I don't know who needs to hear this, but within your chest, within your heart, within your blood, and within those cells dwells an infinity, a limitless wide expanse of humanity none of us are equipped to explore. Every day our hearts beat, ta-thum, telling me I'm alive, telling you you're alive. Messages in language older than thought, describing in wordless sentences that humanity is rarer than gemstones and more precious than planets. Sunshine in your eyes, shadows you can't forget, a storm weathered by a friend's touch, spidered web lungs from too many moments that took your breath away, and a Formula One race car heart dwell within you, nourishing you, a being larger than galaxies. Still look up, beyond the horizon, the sky, the moon, the sun, the stars, comets and meteor showers, and the unbroken curtain of everlasting space to remember. All of this exists to remind you to be humble, because you only get one shot at fulfilling your humanity. You could become a statesperson or a business leader, leading the people towards unity or ushering in division. Maybe a servant of the arts, nourishing others with bread in remembrance of the common man's worth, and wine in remembrance of the common man's power. What if you chose to collaborate in constructing families with legacies larger than Christianity, neighborhoods more inclusive than the deepest oceans, laying foundation to a human confidence capable of travel across the Milky Way? Who are you to hide behind others, to refuse your birthright, to shine as the star you are? We are concentrated stardust ready to burst into inferno, illuminating the sky like the North Star, if only we will believe nature. It set up the world through God or science or chaos to give you liberty. You are the decision maker. You own you. Believe in yourself. A limitless light and an endless darkness fuse in you. Make no mistake. You're going to make mistakes. You will fail yourself and humanity. But none of that can ever diminish your worth and value as human. And we need you. All of you. Everyone, everywhere. Join us. We will make this earth a heaven in our day. But there is space around the primordial fire for you, for you, for you, and even you, sir. Because some few of us began cooking to deliver a taste of confidence to every human we meet. This is power. Empowerment delivering confidence through trust. Collaboration bonding community through conflict. And the leadership of gods and men to guide us into the infinite together. And if today isn't good, nor tomorrow, never fear. We will wait an eternity for you. Thank you.